I have been a contactee experiencer my entire life. I do know that now. But the pivotal moment was when I was 15, where I had my first conscious memory of being taken onto a spacecraft. And I'm happy to share that story.
Yes, I would love to hear this. Welcome to the Spiritual Sensitivity Unleashed podcast, the empowering sanctuary for empaths and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Emily Cady. My mission is to support and uplift those feeling overwhelmed by the weight of others' expectations. Each episode, we explore the mystical realms, connecting with the universe, spirit guides, and angels to uncover your authentic truth and purpose. Join me for heartfelt conversations, expert insights, and practical tools to help you thrive as an empath. Today, I am super excited to welcome Dr. Lisa Thompson. Dr. Lisa specializes in energy healing through her own unique modality, Galactic Ascension channeling, along with parallel life regression and sound healing. She's the author of several best-selling books, including Wisdom of the Galactics, and hosts the podcast Connection to the Cosmos, where she explores profound spiritual insights. Dr. Lisa also leads retreats and UFO tours in Hawaii, where she helps others connect with their cosmic heritage. Welcome, Lisa. I am so happy you are joining me today. I have been following your YouTube for a few years now, and I feel so honored that you're here and going to share your insights with my audience here, and I really do want to book one of those retreats in Hawaii. That sounds wonderful. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I am very happy to be here with you.
Absolutely. So today I would love for your journey of helping people reclaim their true authentic self and connecting with their cosmic connections and heritage is unique. Can you share like that pivotal moment or experience in your life that set you on this extraordinary path?
Yeah, so actually, it was a very interesting one. I have been a contactee experiencer my entire life. I do know that now. But the pivotal moment was when I was 15, where I had my first conscious memory of being taken onto a spacecraft. And I'm happy to share that story.
Yes, I would love to hear this.
So it was a nighttime experience where I was asleep. So I don't know how I got into the craft, but all of a sudden I'm inside this spacecraft. And it was just me and my ET guide, smaller shuttlecraft. Now, I wasn't afraid at all. Number one, he looked human. And number two, I felt like I knew him, we were friends. And so we start flying through space. And from the perspective of being inside of the craft, the walls looked transparent, like you could just fully see out into space. So you could see the darkness, the pinpoints of the starlight, the different beautiful colors of the gases as we were flying through. And we finally landed where we were going. And when we got there, I asked him, "Where are we?" And he said that we were inside of Io, one of Jupiter's moons. And then he started touring me around what looked like kind of a hospital facility where I could see into different rooms where people were being examined. Nothing scary, no probes or anything, but everyone looked human. So my next question to him was, are you human? Is everyone here human? And he said, no, those of you that we brought here are human. We are not. We're humanoid, but we disguise ourselves because our form tends to scare you. So then my next question was, well, why are we here? Why am I here? And he said that those of us that had been chosen to be brought there were being tested to see if something happened to Earth, if we could live in an environment like that or something similar. Now, this is back in 1988. So we were still in the Cold War during on the verge of World War III. So there really was a timeline where something really bad. At the end of the tour, I asked him if I could see what he really looks like, because as a kid and even as an adult, I am obsessed with animals, and the weirder, the better. So I thought, okay, I can handle whatever form he wants to show me. So what he looked like was he was about 7 feet tall, pure white skin, like really chalky, pasty white skin, big dark eyes, and long red hair.
Ooh.
And then he had what looked like triads or triangles tattooed on his cheeks. So
Were the eyes like the typical eyes?
They weren't quite as big as like your
The
gray
almond
ET.
shaped. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they were a little bit bigger than human eyes
Wow.
and really dark. And so very extreme in its size and coloration. So I could see why some people would be afraid of that kind of look, but completely benevolent, right?
Yeah.
So then I get returned back home, and I just remember laying in my bed like, okay, that is the weirdest dream I've ever had. Like, and I was just laying in bed like, okay, that was super weird dream. Now, you probably know within first 10 minutes of waking up, we forget details from our dreams if it's a dream. And I didn't forget details. So, but for a few months, my 15-year-old brain is like, okay, that was just a dream. Fast forward a few months later, I was reading Whitley Strieber's book Communion, which is about his experiences of being taken by gray ETs. And at the end of the book, um, he's interviewing different people who had very similar gray ET experiences as him. But one guy had a completely different story where he was telling Whitley that he had been taken to a moon of Jupiter and told he was one of the chosen ones. And Whitley makes a little side comment, kind of sarcastically, I hope it isn't Io. And as soon as I read that, head to toe chills,
Oh my
tears
God,
started.
I just got chills.
So for me, that, clairsentience is one of my strong clairs, and that was my body telling me that was a real experience, not just a dream. Now, at the time, my mom and I were part of a spiritual school of enlightenment where we were learning about higher dimensional reality, consciousness, extraterrestrials, things like that. So I knew that if I told her, she would believe me. So I did. I went and told
How
her.
old are you at this point?
15.
You're still, oh my gosh, what an amazing mom to do that with you.
Well, yeah, she moved. So I grew up in a metaphysical household, and I was 13 when she moved us to go to that school.
Amazing.
Um, so I told her, and a few days later, she introduced me to one of the other students at our school who had formerly been very high government, who knew about the different ET races that our government knows about and even works with. So I shared
Wow.
my story, and when I got to the part of describing them, he was like, I don't know that race. He said, but we don't know all of them. There are so many out there. But he said, you had a real experience. So not only did I get my own confirmation, but I got that external validation. So I didn't have to go through my life thinking I was crazy or made it up or,
Right.
whatever. But what it did, that planted the seed for the work I do now as a Galactic Ambassador and Channeler.
Amazing. Truly, truly incredible story. I absolutely love that story. I'm like, seriously, my body just kept getting those chills as all over it as it was just all confirmation. Like, oh my gosh. I love that. I know I've had my own personal experiences with the ETs and ships flying over and whatnot, and even having dreams like that, but not at such a young age. And I love that it entered into your life at such a young age.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is why he felt like a friend was because I had been one of the ones being examined. But they didn't let me remember it in my younger years because perhaps I didn't have the emotional maturity or any of that. But I was, a very wise teenager, and also I had the conditions where there was synchronicity to get it validated. And
Yes.
yeah, but so I did know them. That's why he felt so familiar. And what's really interesting is I have, like, from that time onwards, tried to figure out, okay, who are they? What group are they? And they actually are not one that's really known to Earth. They don't work with a lot of Earth humans, but they are related, connected to the Arcturians. They're not Arcturian, but the Arcturians are non-physical, higher dimensional beings, and they had asked this group to kind of watch out for me because that's one of my primary families that I come from. And so this group in Io, they had colonized inside of the moon, and they're more physical like we are. So they have the ability to interact in that kind of way.
So they came down, they wanted to examine you, they were protecting Earth, they were protecting you.
Hmm.
For, do you know why? Like, I know the Arcturians had asked or requested that, but do you know why the Arcturians requested that?
So because I have a big mission to do here as a galactic ambassador.
Yeah.
And Yeah. So I have not had a lot of Earth lives. I am way more, non-Earth. And
Hmm.
um, so yeah, because of the mission that I'm here to do, to really have people understand there's nothing to fear with this kind of phenomena. The government, media, Hollywood, they want to spin this as a very fear-based narrative.
Right.
And there's absolutely nothing to fear. And so I'm here to teach people how to raise their vibration and to really connect with these higher dimensional beings who completely love us and want us to succeed and not destroy Earth or ourselves.
Right. So I'm curious because there's other, from what I know, and again, I know I've shared with you, I don't know enough. I'm not an expert in this field at all. Um, but I have heard there are some that are not benevolent. They're not looking out for our best interests. Is that true?
It is. So it is because all things exist, right? We
Right.
have lower energies, we've got higher energies. So the way that I like to explain this to people is we here as Earth humans, we're in a third density reality experiencing third, fourth, up to fifth dimensional frequency. In third and fourth dimension, we experience polarization. And from a higher perspective, that is simply a mechanism of evolution. So any kind of what we perceive as a negative experience, that's really just we signed up for that to get the lesson to evolve, grow, and move on and feed that back. And so there really is no right or wrong, good or bad, positive or negative. And we have been all things. So there are some ET groups that are third, fourth dimensional, like we are, that also are polarized. So just like we have some Earth humans who are kind, compassionate, loving, service to others, we have humans that are also the complete opposite of that, right? And so some of these ET races, they also have that polarization where some individuals, not the entire race, but some individuals might be perceived as service to self and have their own maybe malevolent kind of agenda. From their perspective, it's not malevolent.
Right.
It's just from our judgment that it is. And then you have other individuals that are, the service to others and understand love. Now, as soon as we get to that fifth dimensional kind of state, fourth density, that's where polarization ceases to exist. It's not that there aren't differences of perhaps male, female, but there's no more judgment. That's where the love concept comes in, unity consciousness. And so that's what we're evolving to. So the higher the frequency that you yourself, me, myself, can maintain throughout the day, then that energy is what's going to be attracted into our lives. If we're vibrating in a lower frequency, we're going to experience more of that, what we perceive as the negative kind of energies.
So from what I understand, over the next 3 years, and please correct me because this is me listening to podcasts, but over the next 3 years, there's going to be a huge influx of ET sightings and experiences. So you're really stepping into your purpose at this very moment.
I am, and they're all timelines exist simultaneously, though.
Right. I know. Please explain to the listeners because I know I've attempted to explain this, but
Yeah.
I'm always happy to hear other perspectives on this.
So there are multiple realities of Earth. There is the reality of staying in your fear-based wars and, the politics and all of that. That reality, okay, that's real. But there's also the reality on the other extreme where we do come together. We understand we are a global race. We're like a galactic community. We can accept other differences because we've gotten over our judgments of ourselves, and therefore we don't judge other people. And then we can live in harmony. We come from compassion and love and empathy, and it really is a new earth. Then there are realities anywhere in between those two extremes. And so what my ETs, my Arcturians specifically, what they always want to remind people of, you get to choose which reality is yours. And so if you want to stay in that fear-based, really hard kind of earth experience, perfectly fine. There's no judgment on that.
Right.
But if you don't want that, then focus on what you actually want. What kind of environment do you want to live in, and live it, create it? Because whatever we are focusing on and our emotions are tied to, that is our reality. So
Right.
you can have a completely different experience than your next door neighbor.
Yes. And so, one thing I always practice and say to my clients is um, don't focus on the circumstances that you're currently living in. Focus on what it is that you want. And that
Yes,
is what's going to create that reality. It's going to pull you out of the 3D density and move you up into the higher dimensions.
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's, and now in the reality that I'm living in, yes, there's going to be a lot more activity. In fact, where I live here in Hawaii, every night I lead a UFO tour or even just go out and look at the night sky. They always show up. They want to be known. They want to be seen and be part of us. Um, Now, the collective right now isn't fully ready for that because there is too much fear and too much judgment of what others look like. We even judge what other humans look like. So, how are you going to be open to something that doesn't look human
Right.
without going into fear? And so, really, yeah, what I'm here to do is to help bridge that understanding. And I know that it's really interesting because I'm like, okay, why did I have to get a PhD in zoology, marine biology? And it's because, well, number one, I've been a genetic engineer and holder of the genes in other lives throughout the universe. And I absolutely love biodiversity. Again, the weirder, the better. I am just so fascinated by that. And so, because all of these beings, some do look very human, but a lot of them don't look anywhere close to human.
So, because there's going to be more contact over the next few years, what sort of advice would you give somebody if they do have this connection? And like, what if they are more of, a lower dimension entity versus a higher? How can you identify or determine that? And how do you put aside your fear if you do have this encounter?
Well, so number one, always know that you have free will, always. And if something is coming at you that you don't like, you have full control to say no, and they will abide by that. Now, in terms of whether you have to check yourself as to what vibration are you in. Are you in more of a depressive state? Then yeah, maybe that your perception of this being is that it's negative. Nothing is separate from us though. And so the more that we work through the shadows of our own mind, get over any stuck trauma, any kind of, again, judgment of ourselves. And that's the kind of work that I help people do, is really just clear, clear, clear. Because the more clear we are, then we can energetically keep our vibration higher and then really understand what these energies are, whether it's human or non-human.
Right. And for me, I've like years of just clearing the energy, and I know I have this next phase of clearing like I was telling you about. And it's like, okay, I'm ready for this next phase of clearing, but I've noticed the more clearing that I've done over time, the more like I'm not as judgmental. I get to be able to see different perspectives on a different
Yeah.
from a different angle and just be okay with whatever. Whereas prior to me clearing, there was a lot of filters there.
Same.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's so freeing and empowering to just be like, oh, it doesn't matter. They
Yeah.
can live however they want.
Yep, exactly. And that's the thing, is that, we come into this society and there is so much judgment about how others think, what they look like, how they behave.
Yeah,
Really, from that higher perspective, all things are perfect. Like it's not good or bad.
right. It's true. I know when I go into the spirit realm, that love, that unconditional love it's just so beautiful. Like there's nothing like it down here.
No, right. And when I met my Arcturians, that was back in October of 2018. And when I met them, it was just the most pure love I have ever felt, so much more than here on Earth. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. So if you have an encounter, I would assume, even if you're not really in tune with where you're at vibrationally, but if you have just this overwhelming sensation of love,
Hmm.
then that's somebody that's there to guide you. And if you
Exactly.
have all of a sudden this like freeze fear moment that just overwhelms you, then it's like, okay, that's when you want your free will to step in and say, nope, you're not welcome.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that the fear might just be your ego response. It might not even
Right.
be that that entity has anything negative to do, but the ego likes to protect us.
Right.
And so oftentimes it'll create a story that isn't even true. So that's why we want to clear out the shadows, clear
Yeah.
out the junk within our own psyches.
Thank you for explaining that. I think that's really helpful. So, for anybody that's listening to this right now, can you explain the importance of having these connections with the extraterrestrials in our everyday lives? Like, what's the benefit here? Whether you
So
have a connection, an actual connection with them or not, they're
I
here
know
for us.
they are here and they're part of our family. We have up to 22 different ET races in our DNA. And so
I did
really,
not know it was that many.
okay, the
Amazing.
number, the number, it's 13 to 22, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. We're not just Earth human. We
Yeah.
are these other beings because they have come throughout our Earth history and they have genetically modified us, they have genetically engineered us, upgrading us. And I actually have a life that I got to fully see as one of these ETs doing this during super ancient Egypt during the building of the pyramids, where I was a genetic engineer and we were on our spacecraft sending down sound frequency vibration to change the DNA so that the humans could hold more energy in their body and have more consciousness. And so that's really, we have all of these superpowers latent in our DNA. So the junk DNA is not junk. It's just superpowers waiting to be activated. And the higher vibrational state that you can stay in, you are naturally activating that DNA so that all of your clair abilities come online, telepathy, remote viewing, bilocation, all of those are real. We can do all of it. We just have to know it and activate it.
Okay, so I'm so intrigued right now. I've got two questions. Um, with what you did as a genetic engineer in sending down sound frequencies to basically upgrade the human race during the Egyptian era, do you think that's happening today for us?
It's happening all the time. We are getting constant downloads, which then do um, upgrade us, but open up that DNA.
How do we position ourselves to be opening up that DNA? Because, I mean, if we're not aware of it, is that DNA still being opened or not? Or
If
do you know
if
what I'm trying to say?
yeah, so as Mother Gaia has shifted into fifth dimensional reality, those of us like me and you and others on this path that are really helping usher in that ascension journey. Um, Again, the higher the vibration that you can keep yourself in, then it's naturally unlocking. There are some people, though, that are very low frequency, like very third dimensional, right? They're
Hmm.
not ever getting up to that fifth dimension in the day, or very rarely. And so their DNA is not being activated in the same way because they're in that lower frequency. So it's really the frequency
That
is
enables.
what
So the
activates.
purpose is if we want to have these activations and have access to these spiritual gifts, we have to constantly check ourselves and pull our. Okay,
Yes.
that makes perfect sense. Thank you. The other question, and this is totally off topic, but how were the pyramids built? Do you know?
I do. Thank you for asking.
The question I have wanted the answer
Oh
to.
my gosh. Well, and what's so interesting is that, I actually had learned this at my spiritual school, that school was taught by a channel descended master. Um, but when I got to see what was going on, so my people, we were up in our spacecraft. We didn't interact with the humans, but there were others of us. So I was part of the Sirian group from Sirius star.
Mhm.
So there were others of us that were boots on the ground teaching the humans at the same time, teaching them mathematics, astronomy, agriculture, medicine, things like that. But they were also teaching them how to do the sound, thought, levitation
That's
process.
what I thought it was.
And what's super interesting is that I was in Egypt in April for 2.5 weeks this year. And one of the temples, so my leader, he was like, Lisa, come see this. And there were two spots in this temple where they actually showed in the hieroglyphs this levitation of a temple.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
That's
they, what's
goosebumps.
I have never seen that on any of
No.
the alternative Egyptian
No.
shows, ancient aliens or anything. And I'm like, so yeah.
Wow. That's like total confirmation. I have goosebumps all over my entire body right now. I love that. Thank you for that little side note, that little detour of the question I've always wanted to have answered. I always thought it was that, and I know I watch Ancient Aliens all the time, and I assumed I know they touched on it, but to
Yeah.
have somebody that actually relived that life and be able to share that.
Well, and what's interesting is I was in Peru last year, and same kind of megalithic structures, like at altitudes. The quarries are, many miles away, hundreds of miles. In Egypt, the Aswan quarry is about maybe 600 miles away from where the pyramids were built and some of these massive temples. And so, the stories that the Egyptologists tell, the mainstream ones, they are just ludicrous. It's like, how do people even believe that? And how do they feel like they can even propose those ideas themselves?
Right. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I've always listened to some of these stories. I'm like, that's not even possible. But it's so incredible how powerful we are
Mm-hmm.
as human beings, if we connect with our higher self, with our galactic family. We are limitless in what we are capable of doing.
Yes,
However,
completely.
I do have a question for you on
Yep.
that, because I do believe we are limitless. But doing things like the sound, levitation, and mind, power to levitate these massive structures, and they're perfectly formed, right? Even cutting those structures, where did they even get them from, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel in this density that we're currently in that we could even access that capability today? Some people.
There are some people who can,
Okay,
but it's pretty rare.
right.
Yeah.
Very.
And though that is what is being lifted as Mother Gaia has moved to fifth dimension. And so, yeah, the more again that we can clear and keep our frequency high, I feel like a broken record, but that's really like that's where our superpowers lie.
Right. So my guides keep telling me we're going through this 30-year shift, and it started in 2020, and we're going through that, and this is the direction we're going. We're going to be able to access this. The more that we awaken, the quicker we can have access to it.
Yes.
So your job being there to help clear people from past lives, energy blocks, and you've developed these different modalities that are super unique. Your Galactic Ascension channeling is vital in helping humanity go through this shift and help others get through it much faster. Can you just walk us through, like, what is involved in this kind of transformation, and what do people actually experience from it or can expect from it?
Yeah. So this was something that came online to me as a specific modality last year. So for the last 7 years, I've been learning different modalities, different techniques. I'm originally trained as a past life regression therapist, human design. I do sound healing. But a couple of years ago, my light language came through. Now, this is actually through my hands and a little bit of vocal. But when I started channeling my Arcturians, they are the perfect conduits for emotional healing. And so when I met them in 2018, their message to me, first of all, was, you are one of us, we are one of you, we are family. And they gave me a gift of a crystal. And I didn't know what the purpose was or what my role was at that time.
Is this
But
an actual crystal or a spiritual?
well, so what I saw, it was
The
a
spiritual.
physical
Okay.
crystal, but I got one to represent it here.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So this is
Is that
actually,
quartz?
it's Lemurian crystal.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
So what I've discovered is that in the Arcturian realm, I am a healer. Now, Arcturians don't need healing, but they send healing here to Earth and other planets like this. And so my role with them was Lisa, Earth human Lisa. I'm a receiver of the Arcturian healing energy. So that is channeled from me down here to me. And the crystal is a transmitter receiver. And so what that does is it brings that healing energy into Earth, first and foremost, wherever I go, that energy is going out into the environment, anyone that I come across, and then my clients. So then my Sirians, I bring in that energy for physical healing. The Sirian Arcturian healing matrix is extremely powerful as a force. And then my mantis, so the praying mantis beings, they are master healers, masters medicine.
I didn't know this.
Some of the most wise in the entire universe. They're ancient. And actually, so their energy then comes through to kind of help clear whatever the other two didn't. And so all three of these, that's what I personally bring through in terms of the energy and the healings. Now, it is also a regression. So I love people getting their own answers for themselves. We are our own best conduit for that, right?
Agreed.
So I help people really tap into where their blocks are, where their traumas are, where anything is stuck. We're able to, using that energy, their body naturally clears itself when they get into that really relaxed state. They're also able to get any questions answered from their higher self. I get them deep enough to pull that higher self through, and the higher self is working on their body as well. And that just continues. Now, some people in just one session have had massive transformations in their lives, in their personal relationships, in their health, in their wealth, whatever needed to be cleared, massive transformation, because when you come out of it, the brain is already rewiring to that new reality. It shifts to the timeline that exists where all of that is cleared out.
Incredible. So what about the ego? Does the ego try to bring the wiring back to the original, or how does that work?
It kind of depends on the person.
Okay. Yeah.
How much work they've done on themselves.
That
Because
makes sense.
if someone hasn't done a lot of deep dive spiritual clearing, then the ego can be stronger sometimes.
Right.
Then, when it finally knows, okay, it doesn't have to be afraid of change, it can release.
Yeah.
And then that reality can be cemented. Now, every client's a little bit different, but the main thing is that they have to be able to trust themselves and trust me that I can help get them into the state that is the right condition for all of this to work.
That's beautiful. I love that work. I definitely want to book a session with you. I have another side note I want to share. I was given an emerald in the spirit realm by Grandmother Anna, who's Jesus's grandmother. And so I work a lot with the Divine Mothers. And I was working with a colleague, and he's writing a book, and so he was having me putting me into a trance state so I could confirm some of the stuff that he had gotten. And Grandmother Anna gave me this emerald, and then it just so happened, I got to show you this emerald. He had this emerald on a statue of Grandmother Anna that had been sitting in his house for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So he gave it to me. I'm like, well, I guess that's meant to be mine. So I love how in the spirit realm, they will give us things and then we can actually get it in the actual physical. So,
Yes.
yeah, so I just wanted to share that side note because I had a similar
No, I
situation.
love that.
And there's
Yeah.
definitely, it's just that confirmation.
Hmm.
And you know, it's a conduit. Like when I do some deep healing work with my clients, I'm holding on to this. I'm supposed to put it in a necklace and wear it around my heart chakra, but haven't done that yet. But I hold on to it because I know it's this conduit
Hmm.
and it has an
Beautiful.
energy that it's not mine.
Right. Well, and that's like every time I do any of these kinds of shows, or summits or anything, and working with my clients, this crystal, it sits on me. Like it just allows me to even energetically through the quantum realm,
Right.
reach the people that are listening or watching.
Absolutely. I love that. I've always wanted a Lemurian crystal. I haven't gotten one yet, so even inspired me to go find that right one. Because yes, our words are not as impactful in my thoughts as our frequency,
Correct.
and that conduit of that Lemurian crystal is really having an impact of making sure it's going out and touching those that need to hear this message.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing too is that I was called here to move to Hawaii, which is part of Lemuria. And
I
so
didn't know that. Interesting.
yeah. And there's a whole Pleiadian connection with Lemuria. And so that's another group that is a part of us. We are actually the closest genetically to the Pleiadians because they were Earth Lyrans before they were ever Pleiadians. And so anyway, and there's a whole story to that I write about in my
I
Connection to the Cosmos book.
I have to read about it because I've been told that I'm Lemurian, Lyran, and Palladian. That's what I've been told. So,
Okay. Well, you're much more than that, Emily.
yeah, because you said
We
there's
all are.
22 different strands within us, right?
Yeah, 22 different groups. So kind of like, where you can say, "Oh, I'm English, I'm German, I'm African," or whatever. Like, so we have our ET kind of DNA as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. So, for those who feel called to explore their own connection and know a little bit more, what are the first steps that you would recommend that they take to connect with their heritage, their ET heritage?
Well, one of the things that I offer on my website is a free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides. And so, I mean, that is a good first step because number one, it's free and you can do it as many times as you want to so that you can. Sometimes when people do it multiple times, they'll have different groups come in and introduce themselves. Other times I have had people where they get deeper and deeper connection with one specific group. And so, being open to that. I also share a lot of information in my two books on this topic, Connection to the Cosmos and Wisdom of the Galactics, in terms of connecting with different groups, leading through different processes to really clear your energy and to raise your vibration and all of that.
Wonderful. So, what about the link? You said it's on your website. Do you have an actual link that we can drop in the description below that people can access that meditation? Okay, perfect. And your books will actually make sure they're in the link or excuse me, in the description below as well.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah, just to help people access that part of themselves. So, thank
Yeah. And
you.
then I do private one-on-one sessions with people to get that information as well. But the free journey, that's a very easy first step to take.
Thank you for that. Do you recommend that they do that before they go to sleep at night or just any time that they have some free time to do it?
Anytime they have space to really get into a relaxed state. You
Okay.
don't want to be doing it with your dogs barking or your kids running around or situations like that, where
Okay.
you have a place where you can get still and clear and neutral in yourself.
And I find that so key. Anyone that wants to connect with the spiritual realm, you really have to disconnect to yourself, your ego here.
Yes.
And it takes practice. It doesn't just happen overnight.
No, you're right. It does take practice.
So doing your meditation over and over, doing it once and maybe you don't experience anything, but doing it maybe every day for 30 days,
Hmm.
it could take that long or longer.
It
But
does. One of the things that is at the beginning of the journey, which even if you just do that part, is really getting the body into that relaxed, neutral state where, it's clear. And then there's a balancing of the chakras. And so, and learning how to raise your vibration. So, really, if you're ever in a funk, you don't even have to meet your family or guides, but just doing that first part of the journey will get you into a higher vibrational state naturally.
that sounds wonderful. Sounds like something that we should all start our day with, especially when we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I love that. Thank you. Okay, just a few more questions. But I really am curious. I am super fascinated in doing one of your retreats in Hawaii, and I would love to grab my mom and have her come with me on one of these retreats one time. But I'm curious, can you share one of your most memorable experiences of connecting with the ETs that in one of your events and how it had a profound impact on your participants?
Yeah. So the one that pops into my mind. Okay. So this was on one of my UFO tours, and I have two options for that. I have like a basic intro for people that are curious, not necessarily into the spiritual stuff. And then I have an extended spiritual one where as part of that, I do lead them to meet their galactic family and guides and learn how to call them in and ask for signs and messages and all of that. So one night we had a couple on the tour, and it turns out she was a psychic medium. But when we came out of the journey, when I brought them out of the journey, what she saw around us was a full circle of ET beings, all different species, all different races, but she could clearly see them, and they just were surrounding us with so much love. Now, here's what's interesting. She was like, there's a human behind your husband. So at the time, I was still married to my husband, Skip. He has since passed. And she didn't know like who it was, but she's like, there's a woman standing behind him. I'm like, oh, that's his mom, Anita. She had passed away when he was 23. So she was there with all the ETs.
Oh,
And
that's
so just, and that kind of experience, it just confirmed, yes, we were calling in that energy.
I feel that energy now.
Yeah, I could feel them, but I couldn't see them.
I can feel that love.
Yeah. So that's one of the ones that really stands out.
That's so beautiful. So after that event, do people leave feeling like this energetic resurge, or because I feel that as you're talking about it, I could tune into that energy and feel
Mhm.
that love. I
Yeah.
wanted to start to cry. I could
Yeah.
absolutely feel it in every like cell in my being. So I'm curious how that impacts people.
Well, I think so I've been doing the tours for 3 years. I've been doing retreats a little longer than that, but I yeah, when people get to really experience that deep level connection with something galactic, they're like, oh, okay. Because a lot of people are familiar with maybe their angels or their spirit animals or other spirit guides, right? But not a lot of people have connected with their galactic team. We have a full support team from every side. Like I've got my dragons, my elementals, all the things. And when we know that we have so much more, we are so much more than just this earth life. We are connected in a universal way to these other beings through dimensions. And so really it gives more impact, I think, to their lives. And they know that, okay, I can always ask for help. And just, we have to ask our angels for help too. They cannot go against our free will. And
Yes.
so when we know that, okay, I can ask for help, and you don't even have to know who you're asking, just team, who on my team can help
Right.
me with this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But people walk away with more appreciation and less fear about what they might experience in the coming years.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really important. Um, do you have any message from the Galactics that's important for our listeners to hear today?
Well, since we are in the time that we are in, and we're getting ready in our country to have an election coming up, and
There's a
things
lot of
are
uncertainty and
a
polarization.
lot,
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
lot, and even globally,
Yeah,
just there's so much going on.
right.
Um, what they want people to do is stay out of the news, stay out of the media, stay out of any kind of taking sides. Because as soon as you take a side, you're in that lower frequency vibration. Really put your attention on what you want to create in your life and what kind of earth you want to be on. And the more that you hold that focus, the more you are in that timeline that exists.
So I think that is so important, and I do that every day. It's like I just stay focused, try to stay above the noise of what the media is trying to do. I believe, and I'm just curious, this is all happening for a reason because these old structures of how we've been living for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, it's crumbling.
It
You know,
is.
we've been in this toxic masculine way of
Mhm.
living, and that's Mother Earth has shifted into the 5D, the new Earth, and this has to happen
Mhm.
in order for us to go into this new era, which is the divine feminine. That's what I
Yeah.
believe. And so having more fluidity in our life and less structure and control. How do you suggest people stay out of the fear base that is being fed to us and to stay, because we as souls chose to be here during this time, and this
We
is a
did.
super exciting time for us, but
Mhm.
it can be also very uncertain and
Yeah.
very unstabling.
Well, so I mean, like, this was hard even for me to do, but 3 years ago, they're like, no, you seriously need to stay out of it. It is not your job. Your job is to hold your own frequency. And because in my earlier life, I was an activist, man. I was going to fight for the rights of women and minorities and, the,
That's
the
me. That's
all the people,
yeah.
anyone who's the
Uh-huh.
underdog
Yeah,
that is.
yeah, I love the underdog.
Yeah. And so that like I was marching, I was doing the things. Well, that was just creating more polarization.
Right.
Now I felt empowered and like I was helping, but I didn't know really, what it was. So they're like, I know Lisa's ego cares about this stuff. Like, when Roe v. Wade got overturned. Whew,
Yeah, that was a painful day.
my my feminine part of me was like, no, don't you tell me or tell my kids or whatever what they can do or not. But then they're like, okay, it's not for you, it's not for you. Now for some people it is for them. They need to stay in that
Right.
reality,
Yes.
and it's okay. So there's no judgment. But what they were telling me as this galactic ambassador and ushering in more light and energy, they're like, you cannot do that. You have to stay out of it. So I had to make a conscious choice. And at that time, my husband was very into the politics and he would be watching it every single day and chattering. I'm like, no, you can't even tell me about it. And I know it sounds like ostrich head in the sand kind of thing, but that's actually what I needed to do to maintain my energy. I'm in this happy little bubble in Hawaii where whatever, I know that there's a lot of strife going on, but it's not impacting me at all.
Well, it's because of people like you that's willing to detach and bring in the frequency that's going to help us move forward quickly through this crumbling of the
Yeah.
structure that is no longer serving us.
Yeah.
So I am grateful for you, and I work on that daily as well to hold space for a higher frequency
Mhm.
to help us get through this. And
Yeah.
and to to do it with ease and not great pain and devastation and loss is my intention of the space that I'm holding.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, we are going to be seeing a lot more people checking out, meaning
I
they're
know, I
not going to
know.
be living here on Earth
Yes. Mhm.
because whatever we are shifting to, perhaps their energy can't be in that frequency. They're not ready, or some of them are transitioning to help from the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's preparing people for that there is going to be a huge shift
Hmm.
in many areas of our life. Loved
Yes.
ones transitioning, what we know as our norm is no longer going to be our norm.
Yeah. And I mean, in the last year alone, I lost my husband to suicide. I lost my mother. I lost my cat.
I'm
So,
sorry, Lisa.
no, I mean, unfortunately, because I have that connection and understanding, like I know that my husband, he helps from the other side. Yeah.
It is beautiful to know that, but there still is grief. You don't have them physically with you, and so there's a little, at least for me. So, um, Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. I am so grateful you came, and I just, for our listeners that want to connect with you and maybe work with you, can you share the best way for them to reach out and connect?
Yeah. So my website has all of my services and products. So that's drlisajthompson.com, mysticmanta.com. And then I am also very active on Facebook and I'm on Instagram as well. And then I do have my YouTube channel, Connection to the Cosmos with Dr. Lisa Thompson.
Thank you. I will make sure all of your links are below so people can reach out and connect with you. I think your work is vital and super important for us right now as we're stepping into these uncertain times.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's truly been a pleasure to come together with you and co-create this.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Spiritual Sensitivity Unleashed podcast. We hope our conversation today has inspired you to embrace your true self and connect with your inner strength. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review my podcast. Your support helps me reach more empaths and sensitive souls like you, empowering them to reclaim their inner peace and transform their sensitivity into their strength. Stay connected with me on social media and visit my website at EmilyKady, that's EmilyKady.com, for more resources, upcoming episodes, and to book your own intuitive channeling session with me. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Together, we can navigate the path of authentic living and spiritual awakening. Until next time, stay empowered, stay connected, and keep shining your light.